I think it just starts from dreaming of being a CrossFit athlete and like going to the local CrossFit class, watching it on TV for years and never making it. And now that I've made it, it's like every time I step on that floor, I'm like, man, if the girl sitting on the couch watching the games back in 2014 could see me now. And I just always try and be grateful because so many people would kill for that situation. And I don't want to ever take it for granted.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is a 2-time CrossFit Games athlete, a full-time wife and mom, and the fittest mom in America. None other than Arielle Loewen. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bryce. I'm excited.
I'm excited to chat with you today too because, it's one thing for like the actual person to tell me how cool they are, but it's another thing to be in the stands at the 2022 CrossFit Games and have like 2 or 3 experiences within like a 30-minute window where people are telling me how awesome and amazing you are. So it is such an honor to officially connect with you today.
Man, that warms my heart because my whole thing is like, I want to be more than just a games athlete. So to hear that I'm like making a difference or making an impact on people, that's what I'm here to do.
I love that you said that. I was listening recently to a speech by Kobe Bryant, and he said something along the lines of, true success is really inspiring the next generation. It's not just about, what we're doing now and, the time of the workout or the weight that we put up, but it's kind of how we do it. And Arielle, you do such a great job on the competition floor, especially like always attacking with this ear-to-ear smile. You put yourself out there where it's a very approachable, relatable vibe. And that's such a unique thing in the midst of so much stress. The CrossFit Games is hard. How do you manage to always pursue some of these challenging things with so much joy and love and this huge smile on your face?
Man, I love that you can tell that I have that. I think it just starts from dreaming of being a CrossFit athlete and like going to the local CrossFit class, watching it on TV for years and never making it. And now that I've made it, it's like every time I step on that floor, I'm like, man, if the girl sitting on the couch watching the games back in 2014 could see me now. And I just always try and be grateful because so many people would kill for that situation. And I don't want to ever take it for granted.
That's such a great answer. I love that. As this was your second Games appearance, how did you navigate that big E word known as expectation? Because, your first time there, you're like, oh, I'm happy to be here. I'm the rookie. But then your second time there, you're like, all right, I've been here before. Like, I want to try to go out and kick some ass or, maybe there's, a little bit of expectation. How did you kind of navigate in year 2 at the CrossFit Games?
I think I got humbled, honestly. Going into semifinals, I had that big E-word expectation of getting in the top 5, maybe winning my semifinal again. And then when that didn't happen, I had to fight for it in the last chance qualifier. I kind of felt like I was at a clean slate going into the games year 2. Like, yeah, I'm not a rookie anymore, but I also didn't really like qualify for the games. I had to claw my way up the last chance leaderboard to make it there. So I didn't really go in with any expectation other than let's be grateful to be here. Let's see what I can do.
Totally. What are your thoughts on that last chance qualifier? Obviously that's the avenue that you made it this last year. From the outside looking in, is that something that you think is really cool just because of, potential variables not going well on the semifinal stage? Is it a fair assessment given the fact that it is more of an online qualifier? You're in your home gym, you get to kind of set things up the way you want. But it's also really freaking challenging. It's really hard because the energy is a little bit different in your gym than it is out on the competition floor.
That's so true. The only thing I'll say, like, as far as the test of the last chance qualifier, I feel like it's very smart to have it because I don't know if they necessarily seed the semifinal well or if the workouts are the same. But when you look at just statistics, and Christy did so well last year in the last chance and then did well at the games. Mm-hmm. I did well this year and then did well at the game. So as a whole, I think the last chance is great and I'm glad they added it. But when it came to like, you don't have the same crowd as a semifinal, you're in your home gym, I think it kind of throws people for a loop. But being in my home gym kind of restored my faith in the CrossFit community. Because even when I did the last chance qualifier, I was still kind of like bummed I didn't make it through semifinals. But I just like opened it up on my Instagram. Whoever's in the Midland area and wants to come watch me do the last chance qualifier, I'll be here at this time, throwing down. Let's do it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I probably had like 80 people show up.
Whoa.
So yeah, I'm more like, I loved the last chance qualifier because it showed me people I don't even really talk to on an everyday basis are still in my corner and will show up for me and just scream their heart outs for me. And just knowing I had that support, it restored my faith in just CrossFit in general. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you put yourself out there like that, where you put an open invitation. You know, sometimes that's scary, right? Like, because you subject yourself to, you know, different comments or different negative biases, but then you also subject yourself to more potential cheering, more energy. And I mean, there's a lot to deconstruct in there, but I also think it's really cool. You do such a good job making yourself incredibly relatable. I mean, the fact that you're doing it, you know, in a local affiliate, and, you know, you mentioned to me briefly off air that, you know, twice a week you take the group class and you connect with other people within the class. I'm sure other people are stoked, like, oh my gosh, I'm working out to, you know, a top 15 individual women's games competitor. Like, that must feel super cool to your fellow training partners.
I hope so. I enjoy it because we even talked when we were off air that you just like create bonds with people when you work out together, you sweat together, you do the same workout together. That's why I fell in love with CrossFit. And that's something that's so important to me, that I have the option of working out at home in my home gym. Like, I need the people and I want the people.
I think that's so great. And, you know, people will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel.
Yeah, I love that.
That's one of my favorites. It's been coming up a lot on multiple episodes. I was fortunate to connect with Jamie Hagia very recently, and she and I talked about it. I know she chatted with you a little bit, you know, on the competition floor. And you know what I love about this too is, you know, you've got 3-year-old Blakely, and you can tell her things, but she wants to observe and mimic what mommy and daddy are doing. And so the fact that you not only have the wherewithal and the discipline to consistently, you know, get after it and try to become a better version of yourself, but you're bringing people at your affiliate along with you. And you and I both know that, you know, connection and, you know, your tribe and you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now everybody's tide is kind of rising, including hers, because of her perception of what is possible based on what she's observing you do. As I kind of narrate this in a little bit of a storytelling aura, what does that mean to you when you're observing your actions based on her lenses?
Man, it's deep. I'll put it that way. When she was first born, I was really big on, I don't want to tell her she needs to read her Bible every day. I want to show her. I don't want to tell her when someone hurts you, you need to be kind to them. I want to show her. So I really try and be the person I want her to be, as hard as it is sometimes. But the same thing with like the CrossFit side and like not giving up on your dreams. I want her to see that she can do great things, even if she feels like having a kid would like set her back in life and she'd have to give up on her dreams. But it's just funny to see, like, she's watching at all times, whether I realize it or not. My husband and I have a ski erg, so we'll like work on the ski erg randomly. And one day she jumps on it and does it. And then my husband's dad jumps on to try it, my father-in-law, and he's not doing it right. And she's like, no, you need to get up on your toes, pull down like this. Like, she's like watching our perfect form and telling him what to do. We're not teaching her how to use a ski erg. It's just really cool that she's watching, but it's also very scary.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit of pressure.
Yeah. Right? And I know I don't do everything perfect. So I'm like, hopefully she only sees the good things.
You got that subtle accountability buddy peeking over your shoulder. And what's so amazing about children as well is that they're so authentic. And so they're going to tell you how it is, disregarding, like, they're not thinking about, oh, this is going to potentially hurt their feelings. They're like, no, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. I'm going to deliver the message that I think is appropriate.
It is so funny you say that. Coming back from semifinals, I didn't get in the top 5. So for a week, I kind of let myself be sad. I let myself kind of just be a little mopey. And we were driving to the gym one day and Blakely was like, Mom, what's wrong? And I was like, I didn't get in the top 5. And then we show up to the gym and someone's like, hey, Arielle, what's wrong? And then Blakely's just like, she didn't get in the top 5. She can just pick up on it and is telling people. It's so
I love
funny.
that. You know, one of the things that I look at with mindset associated with competition is this element of short-term memory. And so, you know, I don't want people, especially in what we try to teach here at Invictus and, you know, the mindset stuff we talk about on the podcast, I don't want people to practice so much stoicism that they just bury their emotions and they deflect and they distract and there's no reality associated with, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Right.
I do want them to address that, you know, just like you described. It is important to be sad and feel it for a little bit. Just sit in that for a little bit, know how it feels.
Right.
But then, you know, not for too long. At what point did you kind of make the leap or make the decision like, okay, I felt what I needed to feel. I reassessed what I needed to reassess. I had the very precise conversations with my husband and my circle of trust and my supporters. I'm ready to, you know, clean slate and move forward in this last chance qualifier. When did you make that decision and how?
I gave myself a week. I kind of had to set my own time frame. A week to not, I don't have to work out hard. I can feel sorry for myself as much as I want. But once Monday hits and that week is over, you have no choice but turn around, full 180 and just attack. And I felt bad for the girls who had the last semifinal. And then 1 week later, they had to do the last chance because they almost didn't get time to mourn, reposition their sadness and be motivated. It's like they had to do it all in a day and then focus their mind.
This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, you know simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com. Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All of these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. 2 important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes to their amazing gymnastics grips to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. I love your patience. The fact that you give yourself that time, right? Because sometimes the CrossFit mindset and methodology is like, more is better. I have to go now. If I don't start now, somebody else is going to beat me. They're going to take my spot. And you can hear the anxiety in that style of thought process.
Right.
Where have you developed this level of patience?
I could not tell you. Sometimes I do not feel patient at all. But when it comes, I feel like to peace, I very much am in my word as much as possible. And I feel like I get that from God. But in other things, I get very overwhelmed easily. This is one thing I'm learning this season, especially, is like how to say no to things and how to not even set myself up for anxiety if I plan my schedule too much or if I don't give myself that week to feel sorry for myself because I know mentally I can only compartmentalize so much things at once.
Yeah, totally. I recently read a book called The Courage to Be Disliked.
Hmm.
And it was kind of around exactly what you just alluded to, which is learning how to say no
Yeah,
and realizing that it's not necessarily that you're trying to like hurt somebody else or be vengeful or, do something negative. It's more so that like, hey, we spend more time with ourselves than with anybody else. We need to live our life on our terms. And, then that allows for the opening of doors to invite people into that. But if we're always saying yes to everything, we're living up to other people's expectations. And at the end of the day, that leads to burnout and all kinds of,
exactly.
negativities along the way. How have you kind of fostered this ability to set those boundaries and learn to say no without feeling guilty or feeling like you're letting somebody down?
I think it all just comes back to the individual. I learned that I get very rude and I'll get almost kind of like mean to my husband and to Blakely if I overstimulate my schedule. So I've just hurt them almost so much that I've had to learn, okay, this is why I'm lashing out. I need to cut back on this and make boundaries for myself and my family. But you
I
have to
love that
have,
answer.
yeah, you have to have like a helicopter approach of like, why am I being rude to everybody? Let me step back and see what happened like earlier in the day to address this situation. Because if you just make it selfish, all about, well, this person was rude to me first, then they would never work. Kind of have to like
Hmm.
self reflect.
That's so much maturity. I think that really explains why you're able to help navigate the competition floor as well as you do. I love trying to like poke the buttons to get to know character and values and, to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, Ariel. How did some of these things start? Like what was your childhood like and how were you introduced to sport as a young girl?
I grew up in a great childhood. Parents still together. I have a brother and I have a sister. We grew up military, so we moved around quite a bit. So I felt like every 3 years, I got like rooted from my social circle and had to make new friends. Rooted from that, had to make new friends. So I'm constantly like learning how to mingle with people growing up. And I definitely loved gymnastics. So anytime we moved somewhere new, I would get into a sport like gymnastics and meet friends there. Then we'd move, get into a sport, meet friends there. And I've always been very motivated to work hard and like want to be better for myself. So I think that kind of carried over to I would be decent at gymnastics. And so people would want to talk to me. And so I was like, oh, if I get better at this, I'll have more friends. And that I don't want to say like my value came from my performance, but there came a point in my life where when I couldn't perform anymore, it like took away my whole entire identity. So I've learned this back in 2018. I learned that, but it grew up from like being a little child.
It's so interesting. I've definitely dealt with that as well, where I felt like my validation as a human was based on my function. And
Exactly.
you've done a really good job popularizing kind of the statement around CrossFit is something that I do. It's not who I am. And you really want to impact the world, through things that are bigger than just your performance and the score on the leaderboard, but more so in your character, your ability to connect with people, waving to your husband when he yells to you on the sideline, really showing how much love you have for your family. I've obviously watched some of your Instagram videos where it's a family affair associated with fitness and fun.
Thanks. Yeah.
What are some of the things that travel through your headspace a little bit when I allude to this concept of, fitness is just something that you do. It's not who you are as a woman.
I had like an identity crisis. I put it in 2018. I started CrossFit 2012, competed at regionals from 2014 to 18. And actually in Utah 2018 at regionals, I found out I was pregnant. And so I had this huge identity crisis of I've never made it to the games. I love CrossFit. This is what I'm supposed to do. And now I'm pregnant. I have to be a mom. And I just had to really shift my mindset. And I realized how much weight I was putting on CrossFit when I genuinely love CrossFit. I genuinely love working out, but it became too much of my identity. So now that I have a family and a daughter, I'm really nervous that that'll happen again, so much so that I take conscious steps to like not let it happen again by setting boundaries, making sure my mind's focused, going into the games if I qualify, all of that.
I think that's such a vulnerable approach, and I appreciate you sharing that because it's not easy. And I think other people have gone through something very similar. There's a lot of moms out there, that are trying to navigate, fitness in their CrossFit career, and whether their aspirations are to compete or to look and feel a certain way, navigating life as a mom. I mean, it's a full-time job, and then you have all these expectations to do all these other things too. How do you manage some of the roles of being a mom, being a competitive athlete, some of the pressures that the societal narrative places on you?
Some days I do, some days I don't. But it just helps to like look back at 2018 for me and to see like what a blessing has happened in my life so far, to where I don't have to work full time because CrossFit helps me out financially a little bit. My husband works full time, so I don't have to. It just helps me put in perspective, like, what are my dreams? And I still get to accomplish them, but I don't want them to take over my life. My family's still important. Coming home at the end of the day with food on the table and we all sit down and eat together. It's just prioritizing the little things. But I do get in the competition settings when I ask people about their routines, how much they train, I do get overwhelmed and kind of second guess. Am I training enough? Am I doing what I need to? But then I just have to reflect on like what I stand for. And it's not to be a full time at the gym 24/7. A lot of thinking I feel like goes on in my brain.
I think it's great though, and I appreciate your honesty and sharing it with us so we can get a gentle glimpse as to a little peek behind the curtain as to how you do what you do. I can't help but reference, I've talked about this a few times in the past around, sometimes the question for, high performing women that are, CEOs and executives, it's like, hey, you're crushing it in the business world, but how come you don't have this family?
Right.
And then the societal narrative to play the other side is, oh, you're a full-time mom, you're doing all these things. What about being a CEO? And my favorite question is like, why can't you have both? Why can't you play with both? Why does it matter? Why does one weigh more than the other or vice versa? Why can't they harmonize? And you've kind of found the ability to harmonize where it's like, there are times in your day where you have the mom hat on, times in your day where you have the CrossFit Games athlete on, times in your day when you're wearing the wife hat, times in your day where you're connected with Jared Graybill, your agent, and you've got the business hat on. You're trying to be creative in your connections with brands and sponsors.
Right.
There are ways to navigate all of these different things. And I'm saying this just to create transparency for our viewers and our listeners of like, human beings are complex creatures. They're not just one thing or another. You're not Arielle Loewen, the CrossFit Games athlete. You're Arielle Loewen, the human.
Right.
And I think it's important that people understand that you are a superhero, but you're also a human. What does that mean when I kind of say that to you?
I think it's neat because that's like what I want and what I want people to see. So it's neat that that's how it comes across. Because when I first found out I was unexpectedly pregnant, I had the mindset of you have to give up on all of your dreams and you only take care of your child. So it's neat to see that I like broke my own barrier of kind of like what the world told me you have to do, and you don't have to.
For sure. When you went through that experience, what is some advice that you would share with other moms that are potentially going through something very similar?
Ooh, that's a good question. The first thing I did was I got help from, it sounds so goofy, but there's like a free pregnancy clinic here. I was pregnant in Abilene and I went there and they helped me, and I like needed help. And the first thing I did was ask for help. So I would just encourage them, you don't have to do it alone because it's scary.
I think that's great advice. What was the role that your husband Dylan kind of played in that? And what were some of those special, intimate conversations where, he obviously is going through his own version of, how do we prepare for this? And then you're going through your own version as well. How did you guys kind of come together and bounce some very special ideas off of each other to help plan for what was to come?
His heart is so pure. I'm sure anybody you talk to, he'll tell you how goofy he is and how like down to earth. He was part of the reason mentally I was fine moving forward. we actually have a funny story. When I found out I was pregnant, we were living in two different cities. So I like sent him a picture of the pregnancy test and he like acted like nothing was wrong. He's like, this is great. And then 30 minutes later, I was like, why are you so happy? Like, usually people are sad and they kind of get over it. And he's like, you're not pregnant. And then he had like read the test wrong. So he had just like looked at the picture and went on with his life, which he told me, which I hope this is true. He said he like had 2 minutes where he was like, oh man, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then instantly he's like, okay, that's just the way it is. Let's start preparing to build a house. Let's start moving in together or getting married. Let's see what the next step is for us. So him just being so like, okay, that is what it is. Now let's make this better was just like really, really helped me from the start.
That's cool. It's always nice to gain some peace of mind knowing that, no, we're in this together. You're not by yourself. We'll figure this out together. We'll co-pilot one another and we'll navigate whatever, peaks, valleys, and whatever else comes along the way. And that's super cool. And as I alluded to before, I've heard nothing but great things about Dylan. In the stands, he seems like he's a celebrity or an icon. Everybody talks about him in such a bright light. So you can share that with him when you talk to him after this.
I will. I know. I was even talking to Christy O'Connell after the whole weekend was over at the games, and she was like, I don't hear many things in the stand. She's like, for some reason, when Dylan is cheering, that's all I hear.
That's
Something
awesome.
about his voice. It was funny.
That says a lot for such a legend like herself. She was an Invictus athlete for quite some time. And so, I've trained alongside her, and she is just such a hard worker. And like, I don't know, I can't help but think about like Mighty Mouse. Like, she works her tail off for being as small as she is. And we used to have her and Kristen Holte like side by side before the games, just like getting after it. And their unique endurance abilities, mindset capabilities, ability to move weight. Right. Man, it was cool having them around.
Oh, now they're partners. They work together now. Do they not?
Yeah, it's super cool.
That's
like
neat.
just seeing how the world evolves, like it's super cool. With that being said, self-reflecting a little bit on your second experience at the games, what was that like in comparison to your first? The first one's the rookie year. You're trying to figure things out. Obviously, that was also under Dave Castro. And then the second year is under, Boz. What were the differences between the 2 years, that kind of float to the surface in your brain?
I feel like they were like night and day. Night being like the 21 games. I actually got shingles leading up to the games because I was so stressed out about what is this experience going to be like. I kind of felt like I had to train on my own, and I was just nervous and I wanted to do good. And there was expectation from doing so well at the Granite Games, and it was really stressful. And I feel like Castro's programming for some reason was just really hard. And I don't know if it's because mentally I was already harder myself, and then there was the stress of harder programming. But this year I just felt kind of like back to my roots. I was grateful to have qualified out of the last chance qualifier. There's no expectations. Let's have fun and let's meet as many people backstage at CrossFit as we can. Just like I really felt like I was a sponge this year, just like soaking everything in.
That's super cool. I never got to compete with Boz's programming. My experience was always with Castro, and I don't know, he had this unique ability to elicit anxiety based on like his almost subtle Navy SEAL approach, where it was almost like the scary movies, the Saw, like, hey, do you want to play a game?
Right.
And then he would like present it to us, and like, I don't know, there's definitely a character and a role that he played in eliciting human emotion and changing his delivery approach. And then what's super cool with Boz is like, he kind of removed that element. He went back to OG CrossFit. I mean, you look back at San Francisco CrossFit, and it was Kelly Starrett. It was Diane Fu. It was Carl Paoli and him. And seeing how they brought in the traversing of the parallel bars, single unders, listening to Dave Newman from RX Smart Gear, and, the press to handstand, some of these things were really freaking cool. And he eliminated the component of Navy SEAL style anxiety. And I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong. He made it more of a test and was like, hey, here's the test. I'm going to be very transparent with you around this is what the test is. And, presented it to you guys as athletes to go attack it. And some of it, especially like the wall facing handstand push-up, you don't really have a ton of experience with that, especially on a block. And so at least as a viewer, it seemed like you described night and day. Not better or worse, just different.
Different. Exactly. And I describe Castro as like the Chris Harrison from The Bachelor. This will be the most dramatic
He would hate
season.
that, but I love that.
But like Chris Harrison's character was to build up the drama, build up the suspense. And I feel like Boz just came in and was like, this is what we're doing. Even in athlete briefings, if people had a lot of questions, Boz would just be like, we're not here to make it complicated. Handstand this way. Handstand. There's like very like, I'm not here to be this evil, twisted genius. It's just what it is. Figure it out backstage. And that's what we would do.
For sure. I feel like that those 3 words, figure it out, is a huge component of the CrossFit journey.
Yep.
And I love that you made the Bachelor reference, because I feel like a lot of people in the CrossFit space just love that show. What was it like? Obviously he was on the team side of things, but what was it like competing, in the same games as Luke Parker?
My husband
I'm sure he gets
me.
tons of notoriety from that, and people ask those types of questions all the time.
Well, last year at the games, I went to the after party in 21, and Luke P was on the floor, and I didn't even think twice about it. I just went up to him and was like, Lucas Parker, because I know everything about him, but he knows nothing about me. And then I just fangirled for a minute, took a picture with him. So this year at the games, I was a lot more professional, and I was just like, hey, I'm Arielle, I'm competing here. But my husband still gives me crap for it, because he's like, you're married. He's from The Bachelor. Quit fangirling. He's here to do CrossFit. But if you watch The Bachelor, yeah, you get it.
It's also funny too. I don't know him personally.
I don't either.
But it's just interesting how the media skewed so much to create a little bit of dislike of him. And it's just fascinating how, social media kind of plays that game, right? You show what you want to show, or somebody else shows what they want to show. And it's almost like smoke and mirrors. You don't get an actual realistic perception of what's going on. And so his I guess aura or the story that comes with him probably isn't fair.
No, and I hate it because he just had standards, and they made him look crazy for wanting to have standards. And that's just the way the media world is versus what's real.
I'd like to take a moment to thank our friends over at Vuori. They are bringing a new perspective on performance apparel. Their products are incredibly versatile and allow for freedom and flexibility in any arena. As humans, we are complex creatures, always on the move and always on the go. Allow Vuori to join you as you navigate the complexities of the human experience. Whether you are training, adventuring, lounging, traveling, or attending meetings, Vuori has options to suit your active lifestyle. My personal favorites are the men's core short and their line of Ponto performance products, which are so incredibly soft. Check these guys out over at vuori.com/Invictus Mindset for 20% off your very first purchase and free shipping. That's vuori.com/Invictus Mindset for 20% off your very first purchase and free shipping. Everything they have is designed to work out in, but doesn't look or feel like it. It's so freaking comfortable that you won't want to wear anything else. Breathing, movement, circulation, digestion. What do all these body functions have in common? Our muscles. There are over 600 muscles in the human body that are responsible for supporting our daily activities. That's why your muscle health is incredibly important. On this podcast, I always discuss seeking our peak expression and striving to maximize our human potential. And so I try to share with you the top products that I find on the market. My H&B is a clinically proven ingredient that has been shown to help build and maintain lean muscle mass, increase strength, improve recovery, and enhance body composition. Learn more about your muscle health at myhmb.com/Invictus. Once again, that's myhmb.com/Invictus. Enhance your muscle health and enhance your life. You do such a great job of carrying yourself in such an authentic way.
Thank you.
In a world where, there's so much so many keyboard warriors. There's pushback for this, that, and the other. It's like, it's so exhausting to try to satisfy everybody. What are some of the things that you think about in trying to motivate and inspire the world through Instagram, through your social media channel, and really trying to show and document some of your story and the authenticity of like, hey, this is what I went through. This is what it was like, knowing that like, in 15 years, maybe less, Blakely's going to be going through mommy's Instagram and trying to like understand what the journey was like.
Yeah, I don't know if I think that deep, but I really just try and grow as a person, like through God, through reading the Bible, and just let kind of people know what I'm going through, let people know my mindset. Like each day when I woke up for the games, I had a verse to meditate on throughout the day. And I just kind of put it out there on social media, like, hey, that's what I'm thinking about. Do what you want with it.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the deadlift workout, I posted something the other day that like, I had never deadlifted 315 before, which is like unheard of for an individual games athlete to be that weak at deadlift. But I was like, I don't max out on deadlift. I just do high percentages. And then when it's time, I will. But I just want people to know that like, it's okay to be different. You don't have to put all these pressures on yourself, and just be very real about, I don't know, being a little bit more vulnerable, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually just looked at that post earlier today. And I mean, first of all, it's incredibly responsible, because maxing out your deadlift consistently is just going to lead to that central nervous system fatigue, and it's going to deplete everything else. Not to say it's wrong if it works for some people. I'm one of those believers within the program design of CrossFit and strength and conditioning that it's all an experiment. It's trial, it's error. There's no super right way. There's, hey, this is what's worked for people in the past. Let's try that. Let's see if it works for us. If it doesn't work, cool. Let's flip the script a little bit. And, obviously consistency is the name of the game, but I loved your caption associated with your deadlift experience at the games. I believe the workout was the back 9. Right. And, you're moving 315. You typically play with higher percentages, but you'd never really deadlifted that before. But I loved your reasoning. You don't like subjecting yourself to potential injury, not just for the athlete side of things, but also in your role as a mom. And, you don't want to tweak it back and put yourself at risk for all the other things that, fall on your plate of responsibilities of life. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
I think it kind of goes back to what we talked at the beginning of perspective. And I see myself, like, you go to my bio, quote unquote, and it's wife and mom. And then I'm a CrossFit Games athlete. And then I'm the fittest mom in America. So it's just, even like when I'm training, I'm very aware that my life is after training. So like once I leave the gym, I go home and take care of what I need to for Blakely, for my husband, for the house. So just being very aware that like the hours I'm in the gym are not absolute. It's what happens outside the gym. Just trying to keep my mind in perspective. But it also that's why like I feel like at the games, I like get so excited, because I don't ever test my limits until they're tested on the competition floor. So it's almost like, oh, I didn't know I was so good at 315 deadlift. This is great. I didn't know I could snatch 190 at the Great Games. So it makes the PR so much more exciting when you surprise yourself.
I think that's really smart. I mean, a lot of strength and conditioning coaches talk about that. Like, leave a little bit in the tank, right? Seek the edge, but don't necessarily go over the edge. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it is a unique perception for sure. As we take a moment and kind of reflect on some of the games, I can't help but note this concept of transitions. And, that can be a metaphor for lots of different things. But when I think of it, it's also transitions from the gym to go be mom. Like, is there a ritual that you listen to something in the car, or you practice breath work? Maybe your Metcon or your lifting didn't go super well at the gym and you're in a little bit of a funk. How do you let go of that in pursuit of home? Or you had a really tough session and you're heading home and, it's a cluster at home and, Blakely's a little bit upset or didn't sleep well, or, whatever stresses get presented your way. How do you play in that micro moment of transitions from, hey, I was just athlete, now I'm going to go be mom and wife?
I don't really know, to be honest. I'm very much like a suck it up and move on. So like if there's a bad training day, suck it up. I have to get over it and move on. But I have a great husband and a partner who on days where it is bad, I can be like, hey, I had a bad day. Can you give her a bath so I can have 10 minutes alone on the couch? So it definitely helps having someone who I can lean on when I'm not really that strong. He can kind of like take over for me.
That's super cool. And the next metaphorical analogy with the term transitions is you just finished on the squat cleans. You're transitioning back to the parallel bars. You and Tia are going toe to toe. And, one of you needs to make a move. And It happened to be you. And you happen to be smiling while doing it. And before I pause and give you that safe space to respond, I can't help but talk about, when I had Matt Frazier on, he talked about this thing called the rubber band theory. And what that kind of is, if you and I are running and you're ahead of me, and there happens to be like a turn coming up where there will be a temporary blind spot for me, the whole time I'm thinking, being behind you, I need to stay with Arielle. I need to stay with Arielle. And that is my motivating factor in that moment. Upon that blind spot, if you sprint and take off, where I'm not anticipating that, he described it as the rubber band theory, where it almost demoralizes the competition around, man, I'm not thinking about chasing her anymore. I'm thinking about trying to stay in front of all the competitors that are now behind me. So now it elicits a greater pressure inside of the mind of the competitor because you now broke the rubber band. And what I saw on Elevated Elizabeth is exactly that. Was you guys are going toe to toe. She's amazing. She's done really, really well. The program design absolutely shifted this year. Tia's done it so well for so long. And in that moment, you actually broke the rubber band. And I obviously know that you weren't thinking break the rubber band during the workout, but that's what I saw once you accomplished that task. As I describe it in that way, what was that experience like for you? And how did you just feel so good at a moment where it was challenging for everybody else?
I love that analogy. I've never heard that before, but I feel like that describes it. That's what stinks. I don't know what's going through her mind, but in that moment when I jogged to the bars, I like self-evaluated everything. And I was like, okay, my legs feel good. My back feels good. My arms feel good. Let's push it a little bit. So I was more like looking to the side, but in my own lane that like I can handle going just a little bit faster. And then I jogged and got straight on them and dipped it out. And that's when I kind of looked over and was like, people are slowing down. What's happening right now? And then just still like self-reflecting or self-assessing, like, I still feel good. Let's keep doing this. I can't even put that moment into words, because the whole time after I like jogged to the P bars to beat her was just like the voice inside my head just going like, what's happening? Oh my gosh. Just being so excited.
Did you find yourself like feeling the energy of the Coliseum kind of picking up? And do you feed off that pretty well?
Definitely. I was actually listening to a podcast. I don't know who said it, but they described it as like when you're in these triumphant moments at the end of a workout, you don't feel any pain. Obviously, we had just done a ton of dips. We had done a ton of squat cleans, but I couldn't tell you if my back was tired, my legs were tired, my arms were tired. It's like your brain was just like on such endorphins that you just don't feel any pain and you just finish it. And it's just like a high from there on out.
That's so cool. What did it mean to you when, Tia's coach and husband, Shane Orr, approached you afterward and, had a brief conversation with you? Did you feel a sense of validation, or what was that sense kind of like?
I thought it was very mature of them. Basically, he's saying like, hey, you beat my wife, who's the most dominant athlete of all time. I thought it was very mature. And I still have that like CrossFit fangirl inside of me to where I was like, did Shane Orr just come up to me and tell me I did a good job? It was a very cool moment.
Yeah, they seem to be true legends within the space, but not just because of the performances, but because of the class at which they carry themselves and the professionalism. Is that kind of spot on?
Definitely. I definitely picked it out last year at the 21 games because I was never in the final heat. I was usually in the like second to last or somewhere in the middle heat. And anytime she would walk by to go to the bathroom or walk by to grab something, Tia would always be like, good luck, ladies. Just like a little bit of class right when you're about to go on the floor. And here I am, a rookie, kind of like eyes wide open to the whole games experience and just get a little encouragement kind of stuck with me.
That's really cool. And I saw that on your Instagram feed. You wrote a caption talking about, hey, your goal was just to try to play and compete in that final heat, and you were able to find yourself up there with the best in the world. What was that experience like? Yeah, the whole time.
It was unreal. But what stunk is like I had a taste of it, and then to be in the final heat on the last event and not make it in the top 10 when they announced the top 10 in front of everybody was just a little bit bittersweet and made me self-reflect. Like I should be really proud to be here in this heat, but I didn't finish. We're in the top 10. So it made me reevaluate things, but it was very, very sweet to be there all weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have a workout that really stood out to you that you were like, man, that was so fun? Like I can't put words to that experience other than the elevated Elizabeth, where it was obviously just an iconic moment for you that'll probably go down in the history books for sure.
Yeah.
But like other than that event, was there another event that you were like, man, that was epic?
It's going to sound twisted, but definitely the Capitol. As hard and grueling as it was, I don't even know how to put it into words. Just the grit of having to carry all those things, carry up the steps at the end, kind of like a Rocky-esque moment with everybody around you screaming. You couldn't even describe it. It was beautiful.
That's super cool. As you were going through that, did you kind of anticipate each station being a little bit challenging the way it was? Or were you very present on like, hey, the run's this, the jerry can is this, the Husafell bag is this? Or did you kind of get to play with those things, prior to the start of the event, have a generalized idea of like, oh, this is about to be real expensive on my body and my energy?
Right. There were actually no pigs in the warm-up area. So the pigs kind of was as you come, get it. But I was very aware on the run to stay in control. So like, don't push the pace too much because you still have a lot of work to do. The jerry cans, we did them at the Rogue Invitational last year. So I kind of had an idea. I just didn't realize how fatigued I would be getting to the jerry cans. So they felt very heavy. And then I knew getting to that sandbag, you just got to do what your body can do. And I have like little blackout moments where I remember picking up the sandbag and then I remember on my back somehow. And then I remember being at like the third steps and then I remember crossing the finish line. But I don't know like how I got to each point.
Wow. It was really cool to observe that workout. And, obviously there was that legendary moment where the final athlete was carrying the sandbag and just the community rallied around her.
Yeah.
And, you and I talked about this off air around just this community component, right? Like, I don't want to bastardize the famous statement, but it's like, you're right. The magic's in the programming. Nutrition is at the baseline of that, of pyramid of fitness. Metconning is important. Mindset is important. Gymnastics and skill work is important. But man, none of this makes sense without community. And to see everybody rally, I get goosebumps saying it, where it's like, that's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than this podcast. It's the relationship and frequency of energy around you got this. There's a light inside of you. Let's create a safe space to allow that light to shine. What does that mean to you to be a part of that and to have witnessed that? I'm sure you got to see it a little bit on social media and maybe if you watch some of the recap stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it happened until I saw the picture and then rewatched the event on social media or on YouTube. But it was, I thought it was beautiful. Just for someone to be so vulnerable, finishing the workout and everybody around them is just like, we don't care. Let's just get you up there. It was cool.
There's like a magical thing associated with that energy of like, you don't think you can do it. You fail. And then somehow you just find a way to just get that little extra.
Yeah. From someone else. They say, here, I'll give you a little bit. You got it. And then you finish.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. As you kind of gently self-reflect, were there any special relationships that you were able to kind of foster backstage and over the course of your 2022 Games experience?
There were. I definitely connected with Danny Spiegel more than I ever expected to. I showed up to one of the athlete briefings on the first day late, which is so unlike me. And she was just like, Arielle, why are you late? We're at the same hotel. And I was like, well, the Uber took a while. And she was just super nice and was like, here's my number. Text me. Let's ride together. So every morning we rode to the venue together and kind of hung out all day, which I thought was really sweet. And then I made some connections with Alex Gazan. She would call me and Danny Spiegel like her mom all weekend. So we got to help her and make sure her rookie year was fun and she was prepared.
That's super cool. I've been fortunate to connect with both of those athletes. Just absolutely stellar, incredibly inspirational in their own front. But leaning in specifically to Alex, I mean, you play the role of mom to
Mm-hmm.
Blakely, and now you got to play CrossFit mom to Alex Kazan in her rookie year. What was that experience kind of like?
I don't know what it is about me, but I feel like last year with Emma Carey, I like wanted to take her under my wing the same as like Alex. I don't know if it's
Hmm.
the mom in me or just they're so pure and gentle at heart. I'm just like, you're great. Keep going. It's going to be hard, but you can do it.
I love that. Now that we kind of have a generalized picture of how your games experience went, some of the highlights and everything, I want to go a little bit deeper into the day to day. There's a lot of moms out there that are trying to navigate, how do I make fitness a non-negotiable priority in my life while simultaneously doing all these other things? What does a day in the life look like for you and Dylan in your varying roles and how you interact with the world?
I would love to do like a day in the life video. It
It'd be so
depends what.
cool. Jared, get on that, man.
I know. Yeah. Someone follow me around with a camera all day. I would love it. No. It depends on the season. If we're talking like a game season day in the life, it's a lot more busy than a right now day in the life. Leading up to the games, I would wake up, go to the gym around 11, be there until about 1, which the whole time my gym has like this awesome child area with like a glass door. So I could just look over and see Blakely. She has toys, she has snacks. They might put a show on for her. So I'll do my workout, leave, do whatever I need to in the afternoon, prepare dinner. And then me and my husband would actually some nights work out together. And then after that, we'd all have family dinner together. If that's like full on CrossFit Games season, I always try and prioritize. I'll do my training. There's food at home, so some type of dinner or leftover dinner. And then, so when my husband comes home, we all meet at the table and kind of talk about our day, see how that goes. In a lot less busy time, there's a lot more time to make like an awesome meal versus a little bit faster meal. But I just try and prioritize like that evening. He's at work. He owns a garage door business, so he works from sun up till sundown. So he might come home at 8 or 7:30, and then after that is like our quality time.
Very cool. How does he find ways to fit in his fitness around his busy schedule and playing the role of dad and support system?
Depends. His busy season is very much like mine. Like when it's busy, it's extremely busy, but he'll have like months at a time where he's busy and then rest. I would say when he's really busy, he doesn't have quite as much time for fitness, but he tries to always prioritize, okay, I'll be home by 7 or 8 so we can have a few hours before we go to bed.
That's very cool.
But that was an adjustment actually when we first got married, like setting boundaries of what do I want our marriage to look like, our relationship to look like. Okay, you can't work past this hour because you need to be home. Because he's just so motivated and driven. He would work until it's midnight and then come home and do it all again the next day because he just loves working, and it's unheard of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you love what you do, it feels like play. You kind of blur
Exactly.
those lines a little bit. And I think I heard you talk about it on another podcast. You guys lived with his family for a little while as you were saving for the dream home.
Yep.
And more recently, you guys are officially in that dream home.
Yep.
What was the experience like kind of living with his family? And then what does it feel like now to have your own space that you get to make yours and make it homey and do all the little things that you want to do in it?
We basically did everything backwards. We always joke like we had a kid, then we got married, then we moved in with in-laws, then we built our home. So it's not the path we expected to take, but our home is so beautiful. Just like being in there, cleaning it, putting stuff away is just like I'm living my dream life. To where living with his dad, it might have been hard at times, but it could have been worse. We had our own section of the house. He's very respectful. We try and be very respectful to him. And we saved so much money on rent that it wasn't even in the question of, should we get our own place so we don't have to live with your dad? It was like, no, if he's willing to have us, absolutely, we'd love to be here so we can afford or kind of like live better in a few years.
It's those short-term sacrifices for the long-term gains.
Exactly.
And that analogy, I feel like bleeds into a lot of elements of your life, you know?
Right. And a lot of people aren't willing to make those little short term. Like, granted, it is embarrassing to be like, hey, we lived at home with his parents until we were 28. But now being 28, living in our own house that we own so much equity on because we save so much money is hands down worth it.
For sure. It's so cool to have the maturity to not give in to those societal norms. Like, who cares what everybody else is thinking? Here's the plan that me, my husband, and my family dynamic has responsibly put together. And we're executing on that plan, disregarding all the societal norms that say you're supposed to be doing this at this age and that thing. It's like, timelines are a made-up concept that I feel like place unnecessary pressure on couples and people as they're trying to figure out this thing called life that, it's made up. And everybody says that, like, oh, you do it this way, you do it that way. It's like strength and conditioning or programming. It's made up, guys. It's made up.
Right. But I think it all stems from, like, what is your individual interpretation of success? For me and my husband, it was, hey, by the time we're 30, we want to be financially stable, have a house, and like be a good family who eats dinner every night together. And like, even when it got a little fuzzy there in the middle, it's like our version of success is, can we come home every night and we're all sitting around the table healthy? But if we looked at like the cars we're driving, no, we don't look successful. If we look at where we're living, we don't. So it's like, what is that individual success for you?
Yeah, for sure. Success is such an interesting concept because I feel like the world has painted this picture of like money and cars and like things and consumer mentality. But, I think it's all relative to the value system of the individual. If you get a family sitting down and having a meal together, that is so rare. And it's so rare in this day and age.
It's home like cooked meal. Add that on top of it. Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, for real. And it should. Hopefully, this conversation helps bring that back to the headspace of people where it is important. Why? Because you get to reflect and it's uninterrupted time. Hopefully phones can get put away. And it's just a time to reflect on the day and observe on, hey, where are you at? How are you feeling? How's your well-being? How's your day-to-day interacting with, the rhyme and rhythm at which we operate? Do we need to keep it this way? Do we need to change? Do we need to upgrade? Do we need to downgrade? I think those little subtle check-ins make it where you stay at the same frequency versus growing apart as a family.
That's a great way to put it.
That's super cool. So you've talked a little bit around, leading up to the games, you have a little bit of a swimming oasis, I guess I'll describe it as. Right. So I'm kind of curious, obviously the games are a little bit more outdoorsy and they incorporate different toys and strongman style things. What does that look like for you, and what is your swimming oasis that you get to play in occasionally?
Oh, it's beautiful. The owner of my gym, I uploaded a picture the past few days. I'll have to upload it again, but she has a 1-lane Olympic-sized lap pool in her backyard. And then she has like a hot tub connected to it. So I'll show up in her backyard and it's beautiful with greenery, little like waterfalls coming out. And I'll swim my laps and Blakely will be like playing in the little hot tub next to me. They're watching or practicing swimming herself. But it's just so peaceful. Even like training swimming for the games, it's almost like a mental vacation I get away to, or an oasis, and then I come back to reality. But anything outdoorsy, I just love. Like Saturdays, we made our odd object strongman days where we'd practice yoke and sandbag, a little bit more outdoorsy stuff. It's just enjoyable.
I'm just curious around how you navigate your programming, Arielle. It's one of those things that there's so many training camps around the world. And, you operate a little bit at the beat of your own drum with, you kind of have a coach, you kind of navigate things a little bit on your own, and you also operate a little bit with the group class. How do you make that work with a strategic system to get you to your ultimate goal?
It's worked well, in my opinion. I get a little bit overwhelmed when I look at what other people are doing, but I also know I only have so much time throughout the day. Other athletes have all day. I know I only have 2 hours that Blakely will handle being in the gym. So I just try and be very intentional. I'll do, his name's Matt. He'll program like a 40-minute EMOM for me. And I'll be very intentional with that. And then I might do a little bit of the group class, a little bit of strength. But I know like when 1 o'clock hits in the afternoon, Blakely's done. And then I have to go home and like tend to her. And I might try and squeeze more stuff in at home. But I just try and be very intentional with the hours I am in the gym. And I've just been blessed that my body's held up just fine. And even though I'm not in the gym as much as others, I can still compete with them on the field.
Totally. I think you've developed a really healthy balance, a really healthy harmony with how your role as a mom, operating as a brand and a business now, and to professionalize your training where it's still fun, fits with how you want to live your life, and synergizes really well with your husband, Dylan. What's kind of to come next for you? Are you looking to participate in Rogue? You had tremendous success last year at Wadapalooza. What things are you looking to involve yourself in this next off season?
I actually, Thursday, I've been waiting for my Rogue Invitational invite, but I just got it Thursday. So
Congratulations.
thank you. I was very excited because that's here in Texas, my home state. It's like 4 hours away from us. But that's my next, I think I'll give myself till September 1st of like having a mental break from training. And then September 1st, I'll jump back in and train for Rogue. Then Wadapalooza, I'm debating going team actually.
Oh, very cool.
Because if I'm going individual for the games, individual for Rogue, we'll see. I would like to do Wadapalooza again, but it just kind of all depends on life and how my body is feeling.
Totally. It's so fascinating because, there's so many online competitions now. There's varying opportunities to make money, to make a name for yourself, to connect with brands and sponsors. It's hard to navigate what's right, what's wrong. So it just depends on the season, kind of where you're at mentally, physically, and emotionally. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but if you do go team, who are you thinking as teammates?
Here's my dream team. Spiegel, me, Carrie Pierce.
Wow, you're going to try to pull Carrie out of retirement, huh?
I might have texted her the other day, but it's all in like a perfect world of would Spiegel be down? Would Carrie be down with that team? I'm just dreaming.
Carrie might kill me for this, but she came down and trained with us when we did some like outside field training. And then she also trained with us a little bit at Invictus when she was on vacation.
Yeah.
Guys, she's still really freaking fit. She's still a stud.
I saw her at the games and I'm like, how are you still so shredded when you're supposed to be like retired? She still got it.
I don't know if CrossFitters ever really retire. It's like they just change the intention. I'm guilty of that as well, right? Like I don't really compete anymore, but my friends are so fit. So if I want to maintain my friendships, I just keep chasing them around and somehow I stay relatively fit as well.
Well, yeah. And you have your girlfriend. She's pretty fit too.
Yeah, she's crushing it. And, she's getting ready to do some of those road qualifiers as well. And then her and some of her friends and teammates are getting ready to embark on a competition in Italy. I guess that's coming up. So that's exciting as well.
Wow. Will you join?
Not this go around. I'm gonna be coaching and playing the role of Dylan over here.
There you go.
Isn't that cool that's like a thing now? Dylan is he's creating like a metaphorical analogy for us supporting partners. I love it.
And what's so funny is it's so reversed. Like here at home, I very much like take care, carry the groceries, like quote unquote, if you want to put it that way. But when it comes to competition time, it's like we completely reverse. I'm like, hey, can you grab me water? Can you grab me food? Can you do this? Can you do this?
I think that's important though, right? Like it's weird to look back at the role of like partners and like how the household is run. It's like, it's not that the man does this or the woman does this. It's like based on the circumstance, you switch in and out and you play the role that's necessary in that moment. I don't want to speak for everybody, but it is, kind of how we operate. Sounds like how you guys operate. And it's super cool to be like, hey, that's not on my resume. I'm just trying to be a jack of all trades to help where I'm needed.
Yeah, because you're like legit partners. But it is funny. We have a rule when it's competition time. I don't have to give him any back scratches. As soon as it's over, it's like my role takes over. And I'm like, dang it, my arm is so tired.
I love that. Well, Arielle, thank you so much for spending time with me on this beautiful Saturday to connect and share some of your story and, some of the day-to-day with how you operate at such a high frequency to finish in the top 15 at the CrossFit Games in 2 consecutive years. It's super freaking cool to connect with you.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram. You can go Arielle Arm. I'm there. That's the best spot.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your story with us today. It was awesome to connect and get some context as to where that big ear-to-ear smile comes from on the competition floor.
Yeah. And if any of your listeners are ever in Midland, Texas, tell them to just reach out. I'd love to do a little workout with them.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. For those of you listening or observing on YouTube, if you enjoyed my conversation with Arielle Loewen, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com. Breathing, movement, circulation, digestion. What do all these body functions have in common? Our muscles. There are over 600 muscles in the human body that are responsible for supporting our daily activities. That's why your muscle health is incredibly important. On this podcast, I always discuss seeking our peak expression and striving to maximize our human potential. And so I try to share with you the top products that I find on the market. My H&B is a clinically proven ingredient that has been shown to help build and maintain lean muscle mass, increase strength, improve recovery, and enhance body composition. Learn more about your muscle health at myhmb.com/Invictus. Once again, that's myhmb.com/Invictus. Enhance your muscle health and enhance your life.